The hero's lone mission ended with a devastating blow from his own partner, who had sworn to stay, but now betrayed him in a way that shattered everything. He was dying, and the only person willing to stop that bleeding was a young girl named Lila, who had been dead since she fought for him when he crashed through her window. Instead of saying the screen went dark, he grabbed the mystical object and pulled himself back 28 years earlier, leaving nothing but dust and silence behind. He has finally come home back at the start line. The snakes who turned against him think they can play tricks on them again, but they truly do not have the script written in their heads. A glitched portal transforms that dusty, gambling rock into an invincible blade ready to slice through anything. Even though the powerful bullies are stuck on level 2, he is already climbing to level 14 by speeding through invisible bosses and earning those unique achievements that finally shatter the game's interface. The villain thinks he's a god with an 8-star talent, but our boy sits on a 10-star mythical beast instead. My name starts with a magic gift that lets me slash kings single-handedly. So let's say my very first move was a mighty sword strike at a king. The Death Dun is an incredibly old, scary dungeon that most people think of as a dangerous place to hide in. Decades ago, thousands of tough guys came out for battle and all fell down, but Summing refused to let them have a chance to win. Well, he really cracked the code and finally succeeded. He slashed through a god-tier killer and took down a dungeon. But instead of cheering for his team, he looked upward at them clumping around him like vultures. The background extras just told Summing to slow down and give up the impossible. The soldier sees their battle clock tick down to 0 and snaps out of it, shouting that they're finally ready to die with honor for the people who love them so much. It seems they want him dead so they can get the treasure without him even knowing what's happening. The moment he saw the Summing began to make him feel furious and gripped his weapon so tight that his hands shook from the fear in his eyes. He shouts loudly at the team for dropping their weights before the final sprint, right as they just crush the hardest challenge yet to snatch that winning shot. Suddenly, the blonde stranger named Zhang Tang rushes out in his cape and draws his blade, shouting that he is ready to make good use of his old friends without ever thinking about killing anyone for it. He insists on taking everything out of Summing's power just so he can finally escape a life that would be worse than death if someone woke up and looked at him. The young hunter knows exactly why his eyes were clouded over the first time he turned 16. Years passed as this fierce blonde snake fought on his side alongside him without ever noticing how deadly and dangerous he really was. Now, Summing believes that if these two things truly matter to them, they should go get the divine artifact. He strikes with the mighty force of the ring of Tao Defiance, startling the betrayer as they realize what a real god's power truly can do. One of the extra snakes panicked with a time bomb in their pockets and demanded someone die right away, but the pale snake stopped them by whispering, "You can't go too far while Summing has this magic." Just then, a shadow rushed in shouting, "Suing name, it's a girl with pink hair and let us just say very generous assets." She threw herself at Su Ming, hugging him tight. Summing asked what she was doing there, and she put on an Oscar-worthy performance claiming she heard people were plotting against him and was so worried. He smiled softly, knowing his heart was full of sorrow for him, but still holding out a hand to help her find a way forward. He turned back to the crowd with a smile. Sure, now that's not how they'd handle him, but he still doesn't know exactly where he was last seen. Zhang Tang just laughs, and suddenly Ranch Shellman drops her act, revealing a maniacal grin that casts a spell directly into the boy's face. She stares hard into the blood that's dripping from the man's fingers and asks, "Why?" as if to ask what a stranger is thinking about her. Zhang Tang yelled, "It worked!" And finally, the catalyst's ready. They slam their walls shut and lock everything in place. Summing gasps in terror as he discovers that the man he loved for years had actually turned his back on him a long time ago. She bolted over and hit the blonde snake on its back before it could even turn around. Yung Tang laughed in delight as he realized that making this setup perfect was just one step toward unlocking Su Ming's hidden abilities completely. The boy added a pinch of salt to the wound and admitted, "She's the only one who got me anyway because her 9-star magic is so perfect." The screaming from beneath his feet turns into a roar of chaos as the mob lunges, ready to snatch up the ring before anyone can stop it. Just as he's about to be finished off, a girl with purple hair named Chia bursts onto the scene, shouting for them to stop. Summing asks what she is doing here and tells him not to give up because they can't let these despicable wretches win. Yung Tang laughs at the news and says, "Oh no, she's going to have trouble saving Summing with just those few hundred good men." The lazy blonde snake hops into the air and screams, "Asterisk, hey, anyone standing right here?" Asterisk Summing tried to tell Chi he was going to fall behind, yet Zhang Tang rolled past him in seconds. He laughs at Chao for throwing his entire energy into fighting a dying man. He points his blade directly at Su Ming, warning him that if they hand over that ancient object, they might be spared from their miserable existence forever. Su Ming stares down the crowd as he sees the blood trickling from his own mouth, while making an unspoken choice about who to help next. The hero lets go of his shield and unleashes an invisible explosion that instantly crushes the enemy with pure force. The power was so intense that even the betrayers knew it was a god-tier trick. She was sued by a person who hurt Chia's legs and apologized because she didn't do enough work to get them fixed back up. She looked at him and said, "If we're going to die, then we'll all make it." Su Ming, the mighty god slayer, swore an irrevocable blood oath right then and there to seal his destiny against all odds. He swore if he were ever reincarnated, he'd snap his fingers at the edge of Shelman's neck and John Tang's throat just to see what happens. The traitor stares terrified at the man behind him, knowing exactly how to turn into a nightmare next time. A loud scream echoes as Zhang Tang pulls the deadly artifact from his lips and hurries away toward the end of the world. It's too late when he tries to order the crowd to stop him. He rushes in, grabbing the chance to catch the big prize, then dives straight for the bottom of the pit while everyone else stays away. A sudden blink wakes up a dying fire so completely that the burning nothingness vanishes into darkness. He stood there staring at the empty auditorium while his brain kept spinning over the noise of a teacher shouting about statistics. It seemed like he had come back home exactly where he was supposed to be. A classmate named Wong Kong was so excited when the announcer yelled out that he had finally switched jobs and turned into an enchanter, boasting about their new 3-star skill. The crowd behind them whispers that everyone looks like they're ready for a fight, but one nerdy friend jokes that being an enchanter isn't just about magic. It's actually quite profitable over time. Su Ming looked around in a total loss of focus, quickly remembering that he was about to wake up for years. A quiet moment strikes as he listens to a crowd whispering about the school's terrible luck for this season, right before the humid air fills their faces with teenage angst and the scent of desperate hope. He walked over to the student on stage and wondered why he had forgotten that exact guy was still alive in his own body, just like the person who turned 18 years ago. The ceremony starts when those who were supposed to be kids suddenly turn into fierce warriors, but the rest of the group fails just as badly at the end, and it's never okay to see them doing that. He's the worst kind of bad guy, and he tears up with pure misery, but my best friend gently touches his shoulder to make him laugh. A curious young boy woke up suddenly to find himself holding something impossible, started to stretch those strange muscles he never existed. He's wearing his sunglasses and smiling so hard he's making the whole scene feel like the protagonist is going through the roof. He finally understands why he was reborn, realizing that his deepest regrets are already written on a new page because he has rewritten them just as well as anyone else. Before anyone gets too serious about his ideas, a loud rush of people fills the space around him. A loud, electric scream echoes as the announcer reveals a dangerous new fighter in action. He's Zhang Tang, that superstitious snake with a fiery aura. Now he's turned into a mighty 8-star magic weapon ready to fight back. The kids have lost their minds after they heard about a powerful, evil teacher who lives in the Zhang family and has been selling off their entire wealth for a few million bucks. He stared intensely at the back of Zhang Tang's skull and thought about all the fun he could have imagined creating something like that for his wall. As the storm of anger grows stronger, a hand reaches out to tap his shoulder. A cheer echoes from the crowd, declaring that the school has finally delivered a truly brilliant student right now. Chi, the undead warrior, stared at the girl as the courtroom doors slammed shut behind her, signaling that the lawsuit had finally turned its back on her. She looked confused as she asked, "Why does he look like he's seen a ghost?" In that moment, she knew the truth was real. He composed himself fast and said he was only glad to thank her for the pre-congratulations. Su Ming pouts, wondering why Chao isn't awake when she should be, while internally he feels a sudden, warm relief as she finally breathes back in. Teacher's voice rang out, and she stepped onto that grand, glowing stone with surprising ease. A hand slides down from above as the entire room erupts in silent shock. The rock trembles and lights up like a ghostly lantern. The voiceless man drops his mask to scream that something new is coming. The boy wakes up as a necromancer, holding an ancient 7-star relic. The class was going to freak out because it's mathematically impossible for any of them to be working at the same time. So they started wondering if God might have sent them all along with a single blessing today. Su Ming watches calmly, wondering if this was the very moment he had anticipated before the game even started. The teacher shouted his name, hoping luck would keep flowing as he stepped forward, but the crowd was skeptical. They whispered that no third hidden path would ever appear, particularly since suing had nothing to offer a new profession. We all wake up at 18 and start our lives fighting giant monsters inside dark dungeons. In his old days, as a poor orphan, Summing had to rely heavily on school money for all his dreams and happiness. On that very day, a man turned his head to stare into the abyss and woke up the 9-star legend called the God of Slaughter, shocking every single one of them instantly. The heavy stones whisper in his mind as he takes a deep breath and pushes off the ground, ready to bring back all those happy words that have been lost forever. He holds onto the crystal, and suddenly the sky turns into a dark, raging purple that shakes the earth. The teacher stared upward in wonder, suddenly knowing that the dizzying change was actually a very special kind of genius who could hold a 9-star gem in their hand. Students everywhere were stunned by how realistic the show was. As Ming stared intently at the gray stone, a small speck of dust suddenly appeared on his fingertip and caught his eye. You are the ring that stands in the way of true freedom and peace. The mysterious ancient thing didn't stop. Instead, it pulled a brave traveler from the past to join them on this new adventure. Shocked by what just happened, Summing freezes before he can process it as a golden system window pops up in his vision, confirming that his powerful last-born class change god-slaying system has officially bound successfully, and it appears his old 9-star talent was simply not enough for this new life. The system wakes him up to reveal he isn't just a clumsy slattern, but the ultimate hero and god of swords. The big storm in the sky isn't going anywhere anymore because the whole town is now turning into a weather disaster movie. The storm rolled in with a thunderous roar that knocked the announcer's hat off like a wave, while bright flashes of black and red lightning danced through the night sky above. The professor stares up at the sky with eyes wide open, puzzled by why so many things are hurting our planet right now. So, while some students debate whether this might be a thrilling combat course or a deadly career path, keep in mind that once the sky turns dark red and blue, it often signals someone is just about to crush their enemies forever. Even though Zhang Tang's pale blonde snake was looking out to see if Summing was just standing there as a statue, he didn't care what happened next. Summing is talking to the computer in his mind. For the first time in his life, he smiled on himself and saw that this wasn't about killing everyone. Now he was ready to protect everyone with his own blade. He was so-called the golden talent that it seemed like it somehow beat all the 9 stars he had lost in his final days. Summing was a smug thought that said he'd turn into an unstoppable force. But then when he opened up his skill tree, it revealed just 0 skills all along. It all started right when Summing began raving about the system and claiming it should be called Golden, only to find out it wasn't giving him what he actually needed, a free trial subscription instead. The crowd just stares at him, standing there with that look of frustration, thinking he's having a tantrum. Suddenly, the system demands a ring again. The ring of Tao defiantly shudders as Summing's hold suddenly snaps in on her, and the system instantly recognizes it. A mighty golden beam slammed straight up into the clouds, shattering light everywhere at once. The light goes out, and then the results come true. Summing woke up with a 10-star sword controller and started a battle. A million people are lost in the dark when they realize that no one has ever seen a 10-star attribute before. The professor was so overwhelmed with happiness he nearly broke down crying and told everyone his university finally won a big prize. He gently adds a small note after the fact. But wait, tell me more about that. The sword controller class is technically the bottom of the barrel for swordsmen because it requires splitting stats between magic and physical attacks. It's a pricey class that really needs hours of hard work to get good at. The class roared at the top as he tried to hide behind a pile of books, thinking it was just wasted talent when they finally slammed the floor right against the ceiling. They started whispering in a quiet room that his class is so bad he won't even make it past the novice dungeons, and while someone else was counting on it to be funny, thinking ignored the people who actually know what they're talking about. Suddenly, a figure stepped free from the crowd to cheer for Chi, who was now the center of attention. She sees him look at her with true admiration and says, "That's awesome, no matter what grade you're in." Even as she watches him feel something, he can't help but smile. The girl who stood right next to him and died while he was fighting back in her past life is really something special. She smiled so sincerely that she knew she had done the right thing by being kind today. He knows that even if fate throws him a curveball, he won't let go of protecting her. In the dark corners of the room, Zhang Tang and Ren Xian watch their own reflection creepily while pretending to be nothing more than an ordinary girl. Ren Xian stares intensely at the person behind him, as if they are a giant calculating machine. So she's telling Zhang Tang that he doesn't need to worry if his high stats are a bit ugly. The girl told him to play rough against him a bit, so the boy would eventually feel trapped. It's obvious both of them know just how to ruin his life. Summing up as he steps off the school and into the city, he checks out his real number. He realized that keeping these powerful abilities meant he could stay hidden for a long time while seeing everything with perfect clarity. The old man finally understood that hiding his powerful blade was not about strength, but about playing a game where everyone thinks they're the real master while he acts like an average guy trying to impress them all. He couldn't stop fighting when his sword was too dangerous for anyone else to see in this world. The hero rushes to grab a massive wrench from the weapon shop right before they start their scary new dungeon run, ready to get their hands dirty on something real. The rich kids in the store are drooling as they stare at a weapon costing 1 million coins. But the real killer isn't the price. It's the fact that this diamond sword is actually counterfeit, just like the bad deal he got before everything went wrong. A businesswoman steps into the room and stops her busy work as she looks up with wide eyes at the man before her. Meet John Lon. She's the VP leading a giant conglomerate. The girl offers to cover every cost of his journey, provided she can help him safely navigate that risky dungeon with her younger sister. He laughed flatly and refused to work when he was working alone. John Lan's sudden shock turned out to be the biggest lesson he has ever learned from a desperate young student who refused all the free money she had asked for. She slaps him hard with her hand, but then Summing jumps up to pick up a $1 million coin sword and asks, "Are you really going to buy me that?" Her face lights up when she asks, "Do you think I'm worth this?" A reality check slipped through her mind as she told her about the gap between having money and doing what you want. John felt angry as he started walking, feeling the wind blow in his face and sending a sharp chill through his jacket. Suddenly, a quick buzz made him jump and look down at his device. The story begins with the pink snake Rinchelle man, who tells a tale that sounds like real life but has no meaning at all. She says she's finally ready to meet him up at the school roof tonight because she misses him so much. He sums up the story and laughs with a big grin. The trap was exactly the one he used when he was young. The man decided to play the game and told everyone they were waiting for him. He walks into the store's gambling floor and finds a pile of glowing red stones that look exactly like weapons he needs for his next adventure. Those slots aren't magic. They're usually full of junk thrown at you by a scammer. Summing isn't just another person. He's got a superpower that lets him peek straight at every secret in your mind. He grabs a rough-looking rock for 5 pennies and proudly shouts, "It's all right." Surely the generic bully, named Yong Deng, appears to mock him right away. A stranger who ruined Summing's happy childhood in the old world decided to make amends by sending him back to a future where he can finally live happily again. A loud laugh echoes as the bully buys some garbage while Summing steps up to challenge him to a fight. He bet 5,000 coins hoping to get the gold sword back. He laughed at the thought of taking a free pill, but he still agreed because his stomach was full. Summing triggers his weapon and blasts away the stone in an action-packed burst of energy. A silver blade, named the Black Iron Christmas Edge, drops to the ground with a loud crash when its long jaw clamps down on the victim. Even though this monster looks scary at first glance, it's actually a brilliant thief that steals everything from its victims. When Summing admires his brand new weapon and notes how it will be perfect for her date tonight, he looks delighted. The gang stares at that shiny sword held by the old lady and Summing as if she were holding something real and dangerous from another world. A whisper from one of the lackeys tells Summing he's just lucked out, but his boy refuses to let them off hook. Instead, he admires the blade and sees it even have a lifesteal effect that will save him a fortune on healing potions. Yongding's hand was extended as the system confirmed the stats and then turned to him with a glare. It reminded him again that the coin is right there in his pocket. He's going to take them all for sure. Yongding looked like he'd swallowed a lemon in one bite. Yet he kept trying to keep the peace while Summing scolded him for betting on something he couldn't stomach losing. The shop owner felt a deep shock as he heard someone suddenly snatch away a shiny silver blade from the pile of rusted debris, almost ignoring the cheers that followed. He instantly grabbed his money back without even checking if anyone else had done it before, leaving the scene with just a grinning face and a bag full of cash. The boy trips over a loose coin and accidentally spares the exact change he needs to buy a new one. The shop owner is more than happy to take the money in hand. The scabbard slashes weapon durability cost to 50%, making it the ideal tool for a broken student who can't repair their gear. She stepped out of the classroom and watched her classmates sit quietly while they fell into deep jealousy about her. He watches the class finish a game and wonders how his own height stacks up against everyone else's on the court today. Even though he looks like the ultimate swordsman in his heart, reality keeps him grounded because he truly has no actual fighting techniques left to use right now. He's had only one thing left after the rest vanished: his secret magic trick that lets everything else disappear for free. He's talking about a cool feature that lets his items get better over time. Summing decided to try it out with his brand new toy, which he turned into a giant weapon when the Black Iron Christmas Edge triggered its power-up magic. The new stats are absolutely revolting, and now, in addition to curing his wounds, the sword gives him a massive plus 30-second stat boost whenever he defeats a monster. He takes deep satisfaction with how his new dungeon feels like a cozy park, then quietly hides the sword by wrapping his cards tightly around his chest before dusk arrives, and the big battle begins. He looked up at the clock tower on the rooftop of the school with a big grin as he summed all his heads together. The actor Rin Xian is already standing there, looking exactly as if she's been caught up in the latest romance drama from an anime. She pouts and tells him she's late, even though Summing isn't actually coming in for a chat. The moment he got ready, the plane zipped forward and charged into the darkness with a powerful roar that shook the very ground beneath him. Rin Xian stumbled and turned around, completely unsure why he was running away so fast. She stares hard at him with a cold expression and whispers, "He's coming for my revenge." Xian steps forward in a dramatic scene, declaring she's done with the pain and is ready for anything. Yet there's no reason why anyone would want her to be hurt. Even though she tries to convince him he's the person she'd want dating, her laughter feels like a scary truth that terrifies him instead of reassuring him. He told me the story of how, deep in his past, he had loved the exact same kind of bold move, a sudden fall for a powerful hitter and a solid kick, and it haunted him even then. He remembers how he felt alone and hungry when the world stopped caring about him. The shy girl looked down at the prize and felt a strange pang of sadness. She didn't think this was a good chance, so when the teacher saw his face, she said, "He's been waiting for you." Now he understands everything and decides to tell her she should leave, because every word he's heard in that game has been used against her. Rin Xian gasps at the news, yet she immediately pushes him back, as if he's a fraud. She was about to call the girl a despicable and shameless when she suddenly stopped, cutting off the sentence before it could finish with that exact word. The mask finally slipped, and Rin Xian slammed his hands together in a roar as he demanded to know whose face was on the screen. Even though she told him he didn't have the high talent she wanted, he still couldn't even speak because without that gift, she wouldn't believe him at all. She was about to yell at Jean if he got away with insulting her, but then she threatened that neither of them would ever do it again. She giggled when he mocked her, wondering why she was so scared of ruining her innocent look. Rin Xian snapped and tried to attack the man, but he had already caught her in a fatal mistake. She's already been set aside for the job. The bloodthirsty blade cuts through her face with a sharp, hungry slash. Rin Xian shrieked, clutching her swollen cheeks in a scream like she was about to dissolve in a shapeless water, while the ocean's eyes watched from below with total indifference. He pulls back from where he was standing and whispers to Zhang Tang, "You got to tell her I'm here for this, or she'll think I didn't want it." As he walked away, he thought that this slash had finally cut away all his lingering feelings about her. Just as the notification popped up in his pocket, he smiled and immediately turned to Principal Young. "It turns out to be okay when you're the one with the top 10 stars. The principal even sent you a new gear set full of thousands of coins as a reward." Summing up the message meant hoping he could take advantage of the opportunity in the dungeon that was coming up, so his grin got a little bigger as the true adventure began. Summing woke up at 6 in the morning to start his day, but before he could even eat, something happened. Instead of a normal meal, he found himself munching on a mysterious red pill that said strong marrow. Principal Sen asks why he's eating a strange thing when he should be waking up and thinking about school. The old man looked at him with a frown, wondering why he'd never been asked to clean up his own messes before. But the boy nodded, knowing that even free drugs can't fix everything if you're just too tired of cleaning your own trash. He groans as a beautiful golden badge appears on his screen, confirming that his stats are up and he's finally promoted to level 2 despite the taste being absolutely disgusting. He pulls out his status screen and lets the numbers dance as everything he has gained grows stronger. But for real? The real prize is that cool, untouchable blade skill known as innate sword body. This story begins with a hero whose soul is forged in iron, and destiny grants him a blade so powerful that learning every kind of weapon skill becomes impossible, like opening the door to an endless world without limits. A smiling grin breaks through the silence, knowing perfectly that a truly 10-star talent must be right there to show them exactly what they are supposed to do. He finally decided it was time to show the world exactly who he really is. The door opens onto a dark chamber where shadows stretch long and cool as they gently slide across the floor, inviting the brave adventurer inside with an eerie sense of ancient mystery waiting for them. The crowd gathered in a frenzy as if they were all trying to punch each other for fun. The day-old roast of this hypocrite has turned into a disaster. Suddenly, he is missing everything entirely and begs the group to help him finish the dungeon so they don't have to fight anymore. He looked down at the two-faced clowns with a roll of his eyes, while quietly worrying that their fake smiles were actually too convincing. He gently corrected them to say sorry, though he knew they already had teams ready for whatever was ahead. Just then, Chi, who had that striking violet hair and was a necromancer, walked out onto the stage and said cheerfully, "I've come so I could be the very first person here to team up with you." He sighs as he decides to fight that very difficult, self-destructive boss who's literally a suicide mission for ordinary people. He doesn't want to be dragged into trouble, so instead of being a bad guy, he pretends he wants to go on his own adventure. A handsome guy with bright blue hair steps into the room before any of us have even spoken yet. Yinze stepped forward and announced his name to the crowd. Summing immediately sees who he's talking to and says, "Hey, what's the deal? I want to be part of your team." Though his past self was a legendary 9-star warrior named Yinze, the current Summing doesn't want to be his friend because he's too busy protecting the world from trouble. Chia stepped forward to tell Yinze to pull away since Summing was already partnered with her. As the boys kept their eyes glued to a game and laughed while trying to hide from their friends, Sumo slipped past them like a ghost. The screen hums with the soft crackle of life, ready to take center stage. He didn't get to the stage because his own schedule was too messy. Let's talk about how a serious announcer should be on time. He tells us the new dungeon isn't just for fun. It's a strict test where only brave teams can get through. Summing was already gone when the boy asked if they were ready. The door flew open behind him, and he stepped forward into a swirling world of pure light, where everyone else was scattered to their own dusty rooms forever. Su-Ming stumbled into a wild, chaotic forest where the sky churned with fire and water as he scrambled to his feet. He felt that familiar warmth rush through him. In his first life, he ran around with a heart full of terror and chaos, hoping desperately to find a way out before time took him away forever. It feels like a whole new day has started today. The secret way to get the ultimate boss isn't just on top of normal clear. It's in those year-by-year map shifts where spots change randomly across the whole world. The sky above the desert glows with neon light as he dives into a forest where he sees nothing but glowing green plants eating up everything else. He watches them roast their dead friends alive in front of him. His main job is to go out scouting for the right path, so he can catch the others early and stop them from messing things all over. The clock strikes 7:30 outside, signaling that something special has happened. Oh no! When other kids burst into the dungeon and think it's an easy park walk, they'll turn out to be walking through hell. But reality was hitting hard, and only barely a minute later did the system report a casualty. 3 hungry challengers have finally been eaten by a pack of bloodthirsty rats. The terrified crowd outside realizes that many people are truly dying right now. She looks worried as she notices her own team hasn't been formed yet, and the numbers on the map are starting to climb fast. The announcer urged every student to sprint toward their teammates so they can tackle the failing classes together. In a dark and wild forest, chaos has just begun. A lone girl is sprinting toward the end of a life to save herself after being pulled away from her squad. She was totally lost in her own head and stumbled straight into a huge 8-headed monster's tail. She screamed desperately, terrified that a monstrous shadow was rising right above her and would finally crush her beneath its powerful reach. Just as the monster is about to devour her, a streak of motion slices through the air like lightning. As Summing charges into his combat form with swift slashes, he effortlessly decapitates the monster while instantly saving the girl from harm. The new dungeons are so much worse than before. A terrified boy screams in horror as he chases away a giant 6-legged beast that looks like a wolf with black fur and sharp teeth, because the bear has already been spotted by his friends. Oh my god, the universe decides he should be hiding and running away from that dangerous beast right when he first sees it. So why not let him scream about bad luck instead? The chat room is erupting into chaos as someone near the 9 o'clock spot suddenly finds themselves completely isolated and trapped. At 11, a small group of people gets overwhelmed by scary monsters. There was an absolute mess happening when a single girl sat on the ground and felt like she had been erased by her entire squad. She's complaining that the dungeon isn't hard enough for a newbie. Well, let's be honest. Maybe they're just not good people after all. Suddenly, she saw Su-Ming standing right over the broken body of the monster he had just slain. She stares into his face, her gaze filled with wonder, wondering if this man is indeed a celebrity named Summing of 10-star power. My little boy sees me smiling and tries to hit her with his best laugh. He told her she was only passing through and couldn't stop saving her from the monster before it finally died. Summing was locked into a fierce battle with the enemy while the confused girl stared helplessly at him, waiting to sign her autographs just when life seemed impossible. The girl jumps off the cliff and runs toward the edge in a panic, while the boy watches helplessly as danger threatens her home. Summing turns his mind into a powerful light as he stares intently at the beast. That sounds like a wild and unexpected adventure. She walked into the forest with a body built for battle, but her mind was stuck on something else entirely. The sun burned hot across the ground, and she didn't even know what she was doing when her legs gave way under her own weight. She fell to the dirt, and then another one came tumbling down beside her, laughing in her face as they both tried to find a new path through the trees. Zooming watched the blade gleam under the moonlight, knowing that something far stronger than steel had already done its job, and he didn't know how to stop it before it cut deep into his chest. He decides to test how much he'll actually make. He steps forward and triggers the Hidden God move, a secret power he stole from his old life. When this superpower kicks in, he boosts his speed by half and gets completely immune to attacks right now. In a dazzling swirl of midnight blue, he slipped away like smoke, instantly teleporting directly behind the Ape King to catch him off guard. He whispers a secret before slaying the dragon with one mighty punch. You just told the boss you were done fighting your mutated Ape King and got a one-time use/scroll. No matter how weak your base looks, a single little bronze skill is enough to make a newbie feel safe and ready to start their adventure. A huge golden message floats into the sky and screams at every single eye. A cool, elite sword master delivers his legendary blow to seal the blood on the skin of the mutated Ape King. Every single adventurer in that deep dungeon gets a tiny bottle of medicine just for helping their weak friends recover. So the kids feel proud and happy they finally got a full health boost on top of everything else. A tense silence hangs in the air as they begin to whisper about this elusive sword master. Some think Summing might be responsible for his magic, but then they all drop their theories instantly. Summing isn't strong at all. His weak control means he can't finish the fight in time, yet others here have the power to do it quickly. The funny part is that they're so sure of what they believe in their bad thoughts. But then Suing catches himself and makes the very first error in his career. He nearly forgotten the global challenge that the dungeon was about to announce. Instead of trying to win the game himself, he pulled all his secrets under the rug and used his total hiding ability to stay completely hidden from everyone's view until it was too late to stop him. He's been staring at the clock for 30 minutes and is alone with a monster he just killed. And he looked around to spot a pack of level 3 dire wolves, knowing exactly why they make such iconic farming encounters. He picks up that precious bronze scroll with a gold smile and dives into his golden talent for every trick. A sudden shout goes out as a massive explosion of magical energy shoots outward, causing the old black blade that was already spinning up into a sleek silver weapon for free. Summing Up tightens his grip on his weapon, poised to unleash a storm of raw energy upon those desperate, inexperienced wolves that can't even comprehend the danger ahead. We're turning our forest into a giant buffet where everyone wants to be eaten. The wolf pack was making a very strange noise while he cut the grass with his heavy mower, treating their fearless strength like fragile paper. That scroll of a notification bar is moving so fast that even someone who hates comments feels like they're being dragged along by it. He slays 10 wolves before the crowd reaches the full 100. So this battle never ends, and the experience only grows with every kill. By 9:30 a.m., as most students struggle desperately to escape the bushes, Summing finally breaks through the level 9 barrier and starts his journey. Summing looks at a strange way to think about a hungry wolf and gets a very good idea for his next move. It turns out he could farm those weak monsters easily with his sword, because slashing them uses the range rules perfectly. He hits the next slash and wipes out another entire group of people. A large dog suddenly burst into action as if the world was about to end. You are the ultimate Wolf King, a terrifying boss that stands at level 10. He looks scary, yet he won't be impressed by that. We zoomed out of our usual schedule and went straight to 8:30 a.m., right before everyone else got up, just to watch the peasants on the field. The team of students like Chow just packed up their gear and stepped into the dark dungeon, ready to face whatever was waiting there. A loud roar of energy filled the hall as hundreds of eager students surged forward, ready to charge into battle. A tall blue-haired hero cheered wildly as his squad finally defeated the terrifying beast in action. He thinks he's on a winning streak with some new enemies, only to be slammed by reality while trying to keep his momentum alive. The sky suddenly burst with an enormous golden signal, and instantly, a massive freshman with a 9-star rank receives their first kill while fighting their way through the wild-tide forest. A giant boss handed out his titles, but the class went silent as one student screamed in disbelief that a fresh grad could hold his own at level 9 before even getting to work. In that fierce clash, Summing stands tall and watches as the Wolf King faces off, wondering how such an incredible battle could ever happen. He launched into a fierce charge to crush the beast before anyone could stop him. The wolf stops thinking about being hot and thinks about the boss who owns everything. The guy fighting his turnabout is actually someone who has come back from the dead. Summoning unleashes his incredible power, yet the Wolf King finds himself unable to resist the overwhelming might of reality itself. He gets a huge boost of experience and instantly climbs to level 10. In addition, he slams on the button for some tasty loot, an iron-cutting cloud and the Wolf King's heart. He steps forward into the playground where a small bull named Ding stands guard. his bright blonde hair fluttering in the morning sun as the school bell rings for the day. Two of them are struggling through an incredibly tough struggle, as the lone wolf pack has worn down so much stamina they can barely hold back their sobs and gasp for air. He felt a sudden surge of gratitude when he realized the healing potion had finally made its way back to Summing before anyone else could wipe them out. The lanky giggled as they watched a stranger climb the mountain to reach level 9, realizing that their own path was still too long and they were just barely making it through. The broken gun doesn't even hit him because he's too busy complaining about how much damage he received. He blamed Summing for ruining their weapon shop when it wanted to buy silver weapons, wondering what would happen if he had kept his money intact instead of spending it on a purchase. The youngling barked so hard his teeth nearly knocked together as he screamed, shouting that the old man was useless trash and had nothing right with him. Even after putting in all the hard work, he's still down to just level 2 because he keeps complaining about how everyone else takes all the damage while he's left with the experience points. He's so convinced he can kill anyone by running into a guy named Summing in the dungeon, screaming about blowing off steam while pretending to be the hero who defeated the boss himself. Summing suddenly finds himself back at his home, and the alarm in his bedroom buzzes to life before he can even open his eyes. Because he hit level 10 so fast, he's finally unlocked a new class and started on that exciting quest. Summing's heart was pounding because he just found out how badly his past life had ruined the chance to finish that valuable quest in an easy-to-fail dungeon. And now he's heading into that extra hard dungeon after all these days. This time he just found it. The challenge is a tough one. He has to kill the boss guarding the Red Rock Cave, but luckily, the Wild Tide Forest is right inside there, so he doesn't have to leave. Summing sees this as a golden chance, so he jumps straight for those free attribute points and drops them all onto agility instead of saving them to later. Suddenly the system tells him his agility level has shattered past 100. His sword master passes the key to unlock a powerful new passive ability, which lets him wield any sword weapon without needing extra leveling up. The air in that first morning's meeting felt thick like a bowl of oatmeal. The professor stared hard into the dark screen as if reading stocks right now. Just then, one of his students leaned forward, pointing sharply at the board while the rest waited for him to calm down with another idea. The professor felt like he had been handed a massive prize and desperately hoped for nothing more than to see Sumi on the top 500 list. Yet there was nothing but the empty seats where Summing could be found. He tried to cheer his team up by saying that if this anonymous player were a true sword controller, he would crush them all. But the principal just wanted to make sure everyone knew they were playing with one hand tied behind their backs and not ghosting the leaders completely. The student is utterly baffled when their teacher suddenly shatters all barriers, slamming them all against the wall in a chaotic display of how far they have fallen. The vice mayor steps forward, eyes flashing with a grin that promises to send everyone flying back into their seats. She storms in, demanding to know exactly where this legendary sibling is hiding. Her secretary has already checked every list, leaving Summing practically invisible as the principal stammers out a weak excuse about early game sword controller skills. The vice mayor finds the joke completely off-putting. She attacks him for trying to steal his worth, so he can get a token for the city's heavenly tower, and then she begins shouting about every student who is really working hard instead of just pretending. Yinze, the powerful demon hunter, sits comfortably on top of the stage, as if he were royalty, while the tough blonde snake Zhang Tang ranks fourth, proving that wealth and darkness are just another way to win big. Because Summing forgot a step in her job, the vice mayor became mean after noticing the school had been sitting on its knees for 2 years, so he decided to take it one level lower by slashing its allowance for qualification tokens from 3 to 2. She slammed his hand down hard and told him she was done talking to him. The principal fell down on his chair, gasping for air while her stormy walk left him crying over a lost budget and begging every god on earth that someone was secretly plotting a massive scheme against them all. The stormy waves are shaking out their full might right now, and that force has quietly settled deep inside the Wild Tide Forest. Summing steps forward as he opens his door into the Red Rock Cave. He spotted a green, wrinkled gremlin with a pickaxe in his hand that looked exactly like a gold digger goblin. Summing knew the monster would scream, but instead of letting it speak, he calmly sliced off its head right as it tried to roar. But the computer has already seen all the clues. The sudden blast of fire from the scout knocks the fog into the darkening cave, revealing that a small group of goblins has been waiting for the moment to attack. A sudden tremor ripples through the rock floor and wakes everyone in that ancient cave as if they were all asleep at once. We're talking about a mighty army of goblins queuing up and roaring off, acting exactly like angry ants. There are these 7 deadly sins of greed and laziness that make people feel totally cold at night. Summing looked over the horde with wide eyes and said, "This might actually be pretty tricky. You can't just let him destroy the people. Your gun has a hard stop. He might cut off dozens of goblin heads with one strike, but a single blow could snap the very best part of his weapon right before he even gets halfway to the boss. Plus, his mana pool isn't quite enough to endlessly spam his legendary teleportation skill right now. The goblin starts shooting arrows wildly at Summing in a way that feels like a battle scene, but now he's realizing his game is over and he must figure out how to win it. Summing laughs so hard he's almost breaking his throat while he leaps over the rocks, hoping the bullets won't hit him before he hits the ground. He whispers soft words to the little cutie dolls so they can finally get him ready to turn this dark cave into a scary place. Inside the deep red rock cave, our little boy holds his own special secret to help stop the scary goblins from attacking. He realizes that as long as he secures the high ground, he can abuse the terrain like a pro gamer to maximize his range. He fires his blade and slams down, causing the entire cave's people to vanish instantly in a single motion. The dead elf peered over the edge of the cliff, watching the ghostly figure sit alone on the other side of the river, ready to say hello when the final traveler arrives. Outside the door, the old guys who used to charge people for free are still hiding deep in the shrubs. The frantic lackey insists he heard the screams of battle, yet young Ding, the brilliant blonde genius, laughs in disbelief before shouting back, "I wouldn't believe a level 7 monster did that alone." He stepped out from behind the rock face as if nothing had happened at all, holding a grin that felt totally natural after 4 days in the dark. Young Ding squinted right away, instantly recognizing that handsome stranger who had taken all his precious silver sword and 5,000 coins for nothing. He spent a lot of time staring at his own reflection because he's already got it all. Level 11 and that first big adventure done. He admitted he took a slight risk when stepping onto the stage, yet miraculously managed to make it through successfully. Suddenly, Yongding jumps up to jump out of hiding and unleashes a surprise attack from the shadows. It's really sad that he has to dodge the rain without even shaking his head. Summing was trying to get away from the bully because he screamed that his little helper would have to take him with them. She stared hard at the crowd, clearly stunned by what she thought was a serious argument, knowing that he wouldn't actually start running for the job. Yongding's anger was boiling as he began shouting that Summing had ruined his career financially, so now they must pay it all back. The guy with a sharp head tilted forward and locked eyes directly at him, delivering a devastating blow to the emotional wound before asking why he kept asking him. He froze when Ding remembered his own name so badly that he screamed he had sued out all the money. Then Summing just shrugged because they were begging for death, and Ding decided to use their desperation as a test dummy. His brand new sword control magic kicks off without a single tap of his grip. He tosses the weapon straight up into the sky, leaving it perfectly still in midair forever, all guided by pure imagination. He blows out his lungs like a heat-seeking missile as he slashes past the bullies so fast they don't even have time to catch up. As Yongding stared helplessly at the flying weapon that was now bleeding to life, he realized with a sinking heart that his master had just used an iconic move for a swordsman. Even when he's struggling with the words, he knows his own voice can't handle that claim about learning anything new. He sighs down, watching the dying groans fade away as his own internal high finally takes over. The bad guy turned out to be an early kill goblin who actually gave him that great skill scroll, and then of course he used his golden talent to upgrade it even better. Oh wow, it really looks like a great match. Now, he pretends to be a sword controller while truly being a broken god of swords. He checks his loot notifications. Killing that cave boss gave him a hidden blueprint for Red Rock Cave Part 2. Summing up, wondering why the game wants him back into the dark hole he just cleared. The sun rose high over the woods earlier this morning at exactly 11:30, and suddenly everything changed as a group of young learners burst into celebration in the middle of the clearing. A group of friends waved goodbye to her Carrie, grateful that the 7-star awakener named Fan had helped them wipe away all those mobs. She pauses to look back over her shoulder and asks a quick question to see if any of their team members are getting too exhausted. It turns out that looking back at the scene caused her smile to vanish completely. Oh wow, the squad that needed a mission to finish up vanished, leaving behind a whole lot of empty space on the floor instead. You can't even find a monster drop in the world because they're all hidden away. A sudden scream rips through the trees as she panics over where the stolen treasure has vanished. Summing was slow as he read through the goblin system description, but I couldn't help but wish they hadn't been there at all. Summing up, it turns out some wild animals hide in those gloomy damp spots and are ready to kidnap any female they find. You hear an unsettling sound as he reaches out his hand to find the treasure, only to realize that beneath the heavy trees lies no gold and nothing but silence. He paused mid-sentence, fully immersed in the thrill of solving a mystery inside his mind like a true detective. The door creaks open as he sees a tunnel leading down where the Red Rock Cave Part 2 awaits him. It's just too dark for humans, so he hops onto a rock ledge and watches goblins sneak into the darkness, hiding their treasures beneath the earth. He steps forward cautiously and slips into the shadows, where he spots a small party of goblins moving fast behind them. They aren't alone, for the world doesn't end here. She was cornered right behind him, and he could almost see the flash of her screen going dark before she died. Summing up the time until she screams for help, he calculates how long it will take to save her. She screamed so loudly that the goblins were distracted and forgot about the precious loot. He pauses to let her grab his share of the treasure, making sure she isn't caught digging while he's gone. He took a deep breath and told herself she was just too weak to stop the dungeon from pushing her down. But she swings her deck of cards and lets them fly into the air. She screams for help if anyone tries to save her, and when they do, she promises to give everyone a massive payday, because her sister works at the top of the Young Financial Group. Suddenly, Summing stops dead in his track as he finally finds that his moral compass matches exactly what's happening in his bank account. A wild burst from the underbrush. With that fierce hunger, he shoots through the tall grass with a flashier speed than any superhero ever dared to fly. The old man knew that goblins are easily scared by light, so when he pulled his bow and shot a beam of pure fire, the whole gang felt like they were being blown out by a lightning bolt. The monster snaps his neck and lets the prey go blind instantly without a second glance. The girl collapsed heavily onto the floor and burst into a loud, ecstatic shout of thanks before she even finished introducing her name to Zhang Yongqing. She stopped looking at her hands and realized with a smile that she was actually the youngest sibling in Zhang Long's family, the one who had been hired by the weapon shop owner after all those years. His eyes darted away as he saw her step forward and began thanking him again, so fast that he barely had time to catch himself before she turned on him. The two of them are trying to offer each other a big reward as soon as they leave the office, but then Summing stops her hand and says she needs to finish up a sales pitch for a customer who really wants something special. You tell me you're dead weight? I turn to leave just in case, but I walk off to find the treasure anyway while you stay still. When I finally dig into that spot and hear your footsteps, I look back at you and see you standing exactly where you were before. She's suddenly quiet as if checking again, but she lets him find it anyway. His smile is too big to ignore. Zhang Yongqing stared at the shimmering gold while Summing refused to take it as a gift. So he quietly turned off his ability to turn everything into metal and let them stay exactly how they are. A bright blue light shimmers across the room, turning her vision around to reveal that she has actually seen something far more valuable, an enormous, golden box glowing with a fierce, unyielding aura. She freezes, staring at it as if it were a demon's mouth waiting for her to scream, clearly trying to figure out what this is and whether it's real or just a trick she can't believe in. Summing told everyone he was about to win the jackpot, so a massive golden light flooded his face as the chests opened and dropped their treasures on him. He found his favorite items in the dark room, an enchanted shadow flow set and a glowing soul healer scroll. Summing stares back as he pulls a shiny, upgraded lottery ticket out of his pocket and then immediately realizes he's just taking a bite of something sweet like raisin cookies to get more coins. The boy worked so hard fixing the first-class change quest that he only found a shadow flow set as an answer. Yet when he checked his armor, it looked very nice, but the second item was the real trouble. It was a platinum-grade soul healer skill scroll. Summing is quite annoyed since this high-level support skill doesn't fit his job at all, but suddenly Zhang Yongqing jumps up from behind, blinks her large eyes, and says perhaps the scroll just appeared because she's actually here. She stares at Summing, eyes wide as she decides to whisper softly into his ear before he catches her surprise, and then she turns toward him, clutching her own glowing 7-star soul healing gem with surprising power. A golden system window popped up to tell him that Zhang Yongqing had joined their team, making him officially the babysitter. We are now standing on a separate floor deep inside that dark room, and I can hear him laughing as he stares down a blindfolded student with cruel eyes. It's 9 a.m. today, and the air smells like stale coffee and fear. He stands atop the dead body, staring intensely as his computer screen flickers to life and screams for the game to begin. Kill 500 players right now. But the clock on his watch ticks down painfully fast, leaving him with only 33 seconds left before he has to make a final choice. This guy was actually running through a battle royale, and nobody else did anything but play an RPG. You know what happens when someone stares into a dark hole? They don't just see a shadow. They feel the heat of it, the heavy pull toward nothing but the end. And you are walking there with your heart pounding as his words echo like a warning. The weak have only one path, which is death. He knows exactly where to find him. Chio, the purple-haired necromancer, and Summing's hidden ride or die. We sprint through time at 12:30 and Xiao is still locked in battle with that scary psychopath. A loud laugh echoes as the killer mocks her with a playful joke about catching birds in the air while chasing them. He managed to slice off Chi's shoulder, and she gasped for air in the dark. The killer admitted that when she was only a few inches tall and looked like him at first glance, he didn't think she could even stand against his hand for so long. He scolded her for wasting so much of his time, and then he sneered, feeling that maybe the first school isn't full of junk at all. He stared hard at him and pointed out that his own school uniform was actually worn by a classmate from another school nearby. Before the killer can unleash his final blow, suddenly someone yells, "Chia, hold on." He's the blue-haired Zenshea, who showed up earlier in the day. The heroes team sprinted forward to save the world, proving that even hidden heroes can make a difference. We stop to watch our clock strike 12:30 before Jia's fight begins. Then he hands over his secret treasures. He finally finished his primary class work and was officially promoted to the top of the sword ranks. Those stat boosts felt like a total disaster when he realized his character's power was actually increasing by only 1 point instead of the expected 10. His swordsmanship power shoots up to twice, his speed becomes double, and his skill proficiency explodes just like that. He then looks at the notifications and says, "Oh, well, those numbers mean I'm going to be much more confident when I face that hidden boss in the dungeon." But then Zhang Yongqing distracted him, and she looked up from her status screen to see the platinum skill buff that he had just bestowed upon her. As she carefully read the rules, her own ears began to perk up, signaling that a new skill had been activated and could boost the team's experience points for everyone involved. As Summing froze in his chair, he stared hard at the glowing card and suddenly saw Zhang Yongqing staring back with a shy, blushing smile, as if he had been caught stealing something priceless. Summing worries about her own bad luck. He decided to tell her he had finally changed his mind earlier when she tried to take her through the novice dungeon. Summing glares down at his phone as he receives a distress signal from Chio, who suddenly warns him to flee because a dangerous student has just spotted them. She was a tiny ghost who felt the world around her dying out, yet she couldn't stop caring about what happened to her boyfriend's life because her heart wanted him alive. Suddenly, a fierce red-headed rascal from the rival academy steps forward to crush down our side of the fight, while nearby Yinze, the brave blue-haired ranger, yells wildly and fires his arrows at him. But the attacker keeps dodging like he's trying to avoid annoying mosquitoes. Yinze is running mad and yelling about the guy being too strong. The maniac laughed, then revealed exactly how he managed his schoolwork before even stopping to talk about the day's work. He spent hours staring at every student in the top ranks of the first academy and felt completely disappointed with his findings. The boss keeps calling the squad trash because he knows exactly which ones remain to finish his latest dangerous quest. The boy Yinze was too eager to close the gap and make a last stand on his friend, yet his reckless desire clashed with the unyielding resolve of the maniac who had already turned everything against him. Lunging forward to close the distance, Gi finds herself in terrible shape as her mana runs dry, leaving no room for further spirits to defend against them while she watches Yinze. She confirmed there's nothing else to worry about, meaning she explicitly said, "Don't bring anything new since Summing won't show up." The maniac sneered, making a loud sound that sounded like they were trying to escape the group. The archer decides to slaughter the target first before charging at the girl named Yinze. Yet when Yinze yells for Chia to run, Chia completely ignores it all and just waits. She charges forward and uses her whole body as a wall against the assault to get him some time off his turn. The maniac mocked her with an angry roar, taunting her for daring to step in front of people who were already doomed by their own stupidity. The sword didn't make contact with the ground. Instead, it vanished into a silent blur of motion before he could see where he was going. It was a heavy blow delivered from below that sent a loud bang of metal across the floor. The shadowy figure in the darkness suddenly steps out and turns his face completely white as he launches into a roar that shakes the very air around him. The maniac stares hard into Chia's eyes before turning his back, scolding her sharply while asking exactly why she should be telling someone else that they are in mortal danger. She's pointing out how funny it is that she's trying to save his life, while she's actually going to make her own death happen next. There was one scary moment when Summing felt so scared he remembered her how much she loved saving him, even though in this day and age she's been pretending to be a brave hero. She sees him look into hers and says, "Stop worrying about someone else for now." He says, "In this world, I'll make sure she never gets hurt." A wild maniac finally clears his head and watches the challenger with a look of pure fury as they step into the ring. The man spots a mysterious flying weapon at a massive display stand and immediately asks, "Is that actually an 10-star sword controller?" A gentle glow of soft light enveloped Chi and Yanni together as if the world was beginning to shift around them. They glanced down at Zhang Yongqing, who stands tall with arms outstretched as a radiant healer. Suming steps forward to introduce herself as a teammate of hers, but she immediately apologizes that she's been taking too long about healing spells just because she hasn't learned how to use them yet. Yinze looks bewildered as Suming insists on playing with his partner, yet previously told him to be the only one on the team. He leans in close to the old man and says, "Don't worry about it. Suming is really tough." Back inside that chaotic fight scene, the maniac locked eyes with Suming, staring down hard. He's staring blankly at the screen, dumbfounded by how fast Suming is moving for a sword controller. He pulls back his grip on the weapon and pauses, realizing that this might actually be a real fight. Meanwhile, Suming stands still in the room, ready to prove it to the transfer student why you shouldn't mess with her future wife. A red-headed, mischievous maniac stumbled back, and for a split second, his demeanor suddenly faded from fierce to barely any confidence at all. The hero knows he's far stronger than everyone thinks, even though his pride refuses to let go. He lets out a deep breath of air and shouts, "Let's see who holds up the most. Either you're the 10-star blade freak from downtown or the sword boss from the boonies." His eyes landed on the stranger, and that familiar feeling of memories rushed back like an old blanket. It was clear he had seen this person before in another world. He thought meeting him was exciting because it happened so quickly in that timeline, but honestly, he's more than ready to finish all the work. The MC steps up and asks, "Does the maniac's blade actually cut like my own?" The redhead smirked and shouted, revealing the sad realization that their hero had been captured by a deadly trap. He lets out a powerful kick that spins into a massive blade and slashes the MC's neck before she can move, trapping him inside his own armor as he hurries through the crowd. The MC screamed as he realized the game was over and needed his life to be saved before the boss got him back. You're stuck in a standoff where the battle has ended, and now all the screaming stops, leaving only those two of you left to decide who wins next. You're right, our hero moved that way. It looks like he was taking a casual stroll when he actually dodged the obstacle. A quiet whisper starts as the command comes true. Suddenly, Python springs back from its hiding spot with a mighty sword and instantly revives his legendary weapon. A sharp blade tears through the air like a hurricane and hits a terrified maniac right on his shoulder before he even knows where he's going. The redhead stares blankly at the MC, who seems completely unarmed and undefended, clearly lost in a new and terrifying game mode. Our hero's brave new steps are like magic lightning. Suddenly, a powerful figure steps forward to greet an angry warrior, offering him a friendly smile and declaring their swords have finally returned. The squad stood on the sidelines and felt completely ready. As soon as the rich healer announced that her job was done, she smiled warmly. The blue-haired ranger shouted to the MC, but then he stopped. As they looked at the battlefield, they suddenly understood why they were so useless. The maniac is sprawled across the floor, his head resting on his hands while we watch him with a bored smile. She watches him with eyes full of love and a quiet promise, whispering that she knows exactly how much strength you have. Oh no, the ranger wasn't ready to be impressed by the tough guy who had been running away with band-aids on his wrists. Just as their minds were already spinning about the final credits, the maniac suddenly saw a reason to get his ass kicked. The hero yells, screaming as he charges with a desperate blast to make the enemy guess his next move. The MC gets locked inside a sword-like trap he creates for himself. She screamed as her future wife tried to run straight into the blender instead of saving him. The ranger grabbed her and screamed, trying to stop her from freaking out. She pauses mid-sentence and looks at him with a worried frown, saying, "Oh God, he's actually telling me this very seriously." And now a terrifying future wife yells, "Don't worry about me," while she desperately tries to save a man from death. A sudden roar cut through the chaos from inside the trap as we heard our protagonist's voice. His calm voice makes her feel safe, but his sad expression reminds her she might be a disappointment. The redhead maniac crashed onto the battlefield and found himself completely losing his mind again. It looks like the man is dying right now, but keeps staring at his friend and honestly wonders if he even hit him in the first place. It felt like someone was walking into the room while he tried to fight off his own spirit. The MC stares blankly as if his brain has failed completely. A mysterious golden window materializes mid-air, offering an explanation for why the shadow flow never can beat the maniac's fierce fight. The set gives you a special power. You can summon a fake shadow to protect your attack. The clone who is in action now gets hit hard from outside, and it's so much more than just a punch that causes him to fall silent. The old man stammered loudly about having 0 collectibles in the beginner's dungeon, telling everyone exactly why he couldn't do anything else. Our hero smiled as he finished turning over a new chapter, but the Red Hat was already furious because it saw the story end before anyone could finish reading the page. Just as a crushing final blow hits you, A powerful beam of light shoots straight down from the clouds above it. This special piece acts like an emergency escape hatch, so you can run away if something goes wrong while trying to finish that mission. The maniac vanished in a flash of size, but the MC found himself staring at coins worth over $1,000 and wondering why so many people were asking for more than they could afford. It seemed like the nearby city had dug up a big pile of gold, so they could stop the arrogant man from ruining their good luck. Cut to the principal's office at 2 p.m. The air feels heavy and scary as the principal tries desperately to munch on a bowl of noodles to stop himself from panicking about everything else. The school administration got a shock finding that kids from far away are chasing their own students down in town. The principal stands up and shouts, "No more ranking competition." A golden blonde snake named Zhang Tang has become the dominant force in level 9, showing off how powerful a truly wealthy and cunning villain really is. The team heads over to check the leaderboard for our hero, so he knows where he stands in his journey. The secretary stared at the screen while the MC climbed to his new level 1 by 1, but kept coming back down immediately. He could still see his face on the screen and look like he's still on level 2. He slumped in his chair, puzzled by how his sleepy student was snoring right at the tree line. It was a rare and strange moment when the real world suddenly faded away behind the heavy iron doors of that grim dungeon, leaving only the eerie silence of a dark room as time began to bleed into eternity. The story begins when our hero jumps down the stairs without hesitation. He isn't even a level 2 person, so he's already up there at level 14. The knight recently killed the elite Spike toothpaste and finally unlocked a brand new hidden visual of his own armor. The team is buzzing with energy, while the future wife shines with a dazzling spark of admiration. Yanzhe nodded in agreement as he heard she praised Zhang Yongqing's experience buff, feeling it was utterly ruined. He felt his heart race as the purple figure turned toward the main character, blushing loudly while confessing that he was truly amazing and very handsome after defending the villain in battle yesterday. She thinks her team is strong enough to finish the final boss alone without needing any extra help. The MC shakes his head while explaining the terrifying truth. Your target isn't a normal boss. It's an ultimate hidden one. He pulls out his final treasure, the water ripple key, and whispers that to unlock this secret world, everyone has to solve 3 deadly riddles tied to the silver moon, green waves, and cold abyss. Chia stares at the empty dungeon sky and wonders if a moon has finally appeared, while our hero has already solved the mystery of why it's not there. He points to a lake where specific plants have grown into the shape of a crescent moon. The boy dives toward the cool waves with a small toy in hand, reaching out to grab one of the shimmering petals before clutching the shiny key firmly. He swings his arm and sends the sword flying into the lake, where the moon's light dances across the water as he pauses to rest. The air in the kitchen suddenly shimmers with heat as the water jumps up and down in a violent boil. The dark abyss shudders as a colossal figure emerges from the shadows, ready to strike down with a giant sword while the mysterious boss arrives at his command. The protagonist holds up his head triumphantly, clutching a glowing blue ball that looks like the final answer to an unimaginably hard math problem. While behind him, a blue-haired archer and a hopeful future wife both stare blankly, as if they've just heard something unheard. The purple one wonders exactly why the riddle remains unsolved, while the MC reveals it's merely a whirlpool forming within the lake, using an iris to show where the water goes and stars to call out for help. He did an incredibly complex magic trick, so the sleeping thing finally woke up. 2 bright red system warnings immediately flashed across the screen as the boss finally appeared. There stands a towering king of the water as he roars his red helmet atop a ghostly horse, guarding the deep pool with fierce resolve. A golden notification popped up on the screen declaring that Yinze and Chio are now part of the group. It was a natural choice when Su Ming stepped up as captain. He stares hard into the faces of his team and shouts, "Get ready for the fight." 1 hour after he walked into town, the red armored knight was walking through the streets searching for a killer, while our brave squad stayed buried deep in the bushes, pretending they were cowards to hide from danger. The archer reaches out hesitantly and says, "It looks really odd if I'm hiding like that." Our hero sees a cute girl and decides to fight her off before anyone else can stop him. The boss looks up, but he doesn't know how fast the horse is running yet. The guard stands before him with such overwhelming power that the entire window seems to shatter under his gaze. With a staggering 301 points of raw strength and a massive 500-point mount ready for battle, he is about to level them up in no time. You're summing up every single number and still can't beat the boss's total strength. Even if you run faster than everyone else adds together, you'll be crushed before you finish running away from them. Suddenly, some random background students wander into the area and shout, demanding to know what that mysterious object is because a level 19 boss is coming. The boss didn't wait for them to finish their sentences. He charged and wiped them all away in one go. The archer watched as the shooter fired so hard he could barely see his own reflection in the rain. Summing looked surprised as his command to push the team into the trap was suddenly ignored by a future wife who insisted on moving fast, reporting that she had already depleted every member's manicures across the entire squad, so no one could stop her from setting up a deadly delay trap. The hero's head twitches as a grateful nod comes from the workers who buried him in mud and dug new earth out of his ashes. She stared into the screen and started replaying the days that shaped her future. The dungeon boss was always out of his way, so he didn't dare try to beat him until everyone else finished that scary solo run. He admitted he had seen that technique in the old books before realizing the boss had a Ferrari instead of a horse. They had to get him off the horse before they could actually kill him. Step 1 of the exciting plan to count. The arrow flies through the air and hits the target's angry face. The arrow strikes the boss, and the knight barely flinches because of his massive armor that never lets go. The archer laughs heartily while he slams his hand down, knowing that even though he throws a toothpick so hard, the tank just shoves him away without a word. Meanwhile, the healer girl screams, "I'm pulling back the aggression," as she shouts to keep her allies safe from the storm of damage. Step 2. She cast a powerful spell to unleash a giant cloud of smoke that completely blocked her boss's view, summing up her pride as if she had learned this magic trick from the goblins before. He walks into the thick fog and sees the boss charging through it without a care. The purple one pulls out her trap and lets everyone know she's ready. A horde of summoned skeletons lunges for the horse as the healer dials Soul Siphon, blasting magic damage and slowly draining vitality from everyone involved. Our hero watched the team's final move and grinned as he realized, if it didn't help him, I'd still be stuck with this guy alone. Meanwhile, as the boss finally gave up and distracted, Summing struck first. She jumps out from the dark and shoots at the rider's rear, prepared to pull away before he can turn around. The air over the lake grew heavy and tense right when the boy Summing made his bold move. His thunderous roar sent shockwaves through the water as he slammed forward, clutching the ancient guardian tightly until the mighty armored knight dropped from his horse. Zhang Yongqing's heart skips a beat as she watches the bright sun peek through the trees, and she can almost feel the warm glow of the sky on her face. Cheese Mom shouted that they had done the job, even though her boss got kicked out while she was still in the dark, and nobody is ready to celebrate right now. She stares hard at the screen, keeping her guard up while telling the team that this is just the beginning of the season. That ruthless boss won't quit until he gets his revenge in full swing. And now, we'll stop time to watch what happens next. 10 minutes ago, everyone in the team was debating whether or not to take this plan seriously. Chow had explained to Summing that although destroying the boss's plan was a very solid idea, her and the healer would soon be totally depleted of mana if they did it right. The kids looked down at their dying fuel and wondered if the tank would last another minute. Then, a small boy stepped forward with a bright grin, telling everyone to ignore the danger because he wasn't going anywhere. He said, "You can go with him for now. I'll handle the rest." Bro is grinding away on that multiplayer raid right now, and suddenly the ground itself is trembling under Su Ming's heavy assault as the Guardian clash in a battle. They're fighting over the tools with every clash, and the grind can feel endless until someone finally gives up. Zong, that blue-eyed archer who's completely lost in a strange dream, is now staring at the sky with such intense focus he has no words left to say. He couldn't figure out why his freshman had jumped so close to a level 19 boss alone. He tried to pull fight back in, but Chow stopped him, telling him to retreat and let the main character decide. Their missions are completely different now. Summing decided that now was the perfect time to let the waters run dry and settle down without further testing. The moment his hand locks onto the floor, the world snaps into motion, turning him from a solid figure into something invisible yet terrifyingly real, a blur of light and shadow that refuses to pause. The knight moved around effortlessly, finding out instantly that without his horse, the boss would look like a stone statue instead of someone alive. The screen popped open to show us those statistics, showing exactly how much he carried in his life. His motorcycle's power plummets from full steam to a mere 55 miles per hour when the guard steps out of the way. Despite being so fast that he sits only at 102 miles per hour, his true strength remains an imposing 3,001 pounds. The little boy stared at those huge numbers and laughed so hard he nearly fell over. The boss lets go of his heavy brakes so suddenly that the hidden boss becomes truly invisible. A sudden leap sends him soaring through the air before he drops his heavy sword in a powerful, towering slash, striking directly into the knight's armored shoulder and causing an immediate glitch in the game world where nothing seems to be right. Bro, If your weapon only has 7% left, seriously? Are we really talking about a gun that's holding its breath? The boss is so tough that the damage he's taking is already being cut in half as his new armor mastery level reaches 5. He tried to slice open the vault door with a kitchen knife, but soon he realized his old sword wouldn't hold out long enough for him to finish. The smart knight smiles at his own mistake and tries a fake whistle to trick the wolf, hoping to force the horse back into the battle. Summing only smiles and whispers that he'd have to take his own leave because it's so much more than a pity. The horse's busy day has never ended. As our squad shifts into action, we find ourselves surrounded by a sea of chaotic energy that is truly unstoppable. A demonic stallion is chasing Kiyo and his team as they hide in the shadows of the forest. She grabs the reins and shouts at the horse to calm its struggle, while simultaneously sending a wave of magic through the healer to steady it before the storm hits. This was the key mission Samong handed out. He knew he had to keep the boss away from his horse while they ran, and now that the beast is tied down and the leader is lowered to the ground, there's no time left before their sword becomes a pile of scrap metal. Their boy locked in place, and you know things are about to become legendary. I am covering this story weekly because it's fun as much as you're into it. Please leave a like and subscribe so you get notified when a new chapter drops. See you next week at the next one. Our boy is locked in an endless dance of death with the armored knight. The hero swings his power up, slicing the air with an unstoppable draw slash that cuts through the ground instantly before launching himself forward to slash down on the enemy with a massive water blade. This boss isn't just a bunch of mindless mobs. The knight tanks all the blows with ease while taking a grimace as he wipes the damage off his armor. The gun looks like it's broken, with the armor only 3% still holding its strength. He looked at that statistic and knew it was too dangerous. Suddenly, he realized he couldn't spend any more effort building fancy combinations without risking his own safety. The massive boss armor is about to crack, and then all that precious summing sword falls into pieces too. Who will crack the lock first? The knight charged at an enemy. Then his massive hand whipped back to snatch away a falling threat before he could strike hard enough to hurt anyone else. Yes, that's exactly where we were heading when your hero stopped running. Did the knight think his bold plans were a joke, only to have the very person who was trying to save him burn alive by his own careless decisions? The police found out it was a fake copy, so they were just glad to see the real man standing right there with him while the boss tried to eat the whole room in smoke. He grinned, saying the game was built for everyone. The steel groans under the weight of his hand and crashes to earth like wet clay as the armor snaps back, leaving the world behind him in silence. At the split-second Summing's blade vanished into thin air, leaving him completely undefended, but his fear was already lost. He instantly snapped into his shadow blade mode and fired a beam of pure energy to seal off the last job. The mighty knight falls in a final, crushing strike as the world turns to dust behind him. Later that afternoon, we had to jump into a faculty meeting right in hell because we couldn't get out of it before noon. The group of folks with different opinions gathered around a table while drinking tea. Then comes our principal, Principal Wu. The room feels heavy with tension as air lies in the corner, while the other principals rush over to question who really decided to show up. A rival points out that normally things clear out by 3 o'clock, but Wu looks genuinely ashamed because no one yet challenged a boss in his entire career. But the Principal Wu's academy was completely silent, and they even try to make a low blow about it. Because their school is always dead last, there really isn't much point in being late at all. Principal Wu stumbles back into the room, clutching his bag like a shield, whispering to no one else that he had been checking the screen for a moment before the others even realized what was happening behind him. Meanwhile, everyone else is already spinning up their own stories about how they got promoted by students who wouldn't be there today. And as Principal Wu looks at the empty office, he can't help but think that maybe all those real-time feedback checks were just waiting to start running a little too early. So one guy tells a story about an impossible challenge to the boss, while another insists on having 3 separate teams fighting it all along. They're shouting at each other to make sure they're getting everything done right. They all agreed that if Principal Wu School doesn't get first clear this year, their funding will drop to essentially nothing. But they don't realize the pressure is real. Their A's are underwhelmed while our boys out here, soloing content they've never even seen exist. Hey, let's go back 15 minutes to find that blonde snake named Zhang Tang inside the classroom, where he's just trying to scream through his broken lungs while everyone else is so tired they're going crazy. The man grabs his hat and shouts, "Charge up, push hard," while the team starts running toward the enemy in a wild roar of energy. The lions stand in a sea of fire and stone as they battle their final boss, who turns every moment into an absolute war for the dungeon's hearts. Those students were being swatted away by the wind like small flies flying through a storm. A single cry echoed in the classroom as one student realized they were utterly outmatched by the intimidating level 15 boss. It's a sick day, full of panic rolls, health bars tumbling down, and everyone seems to be getting thrown out of the room. Zhang Tang's heart doesn't even twitch over their safety. He clings desperately to the thrill of defeating the legendary boss alone, convinced the first dungeon clearing earned him a title like no other. His eyes are wide with desperation as he realizes the world hinges entirely on his own power right this second. Summing is wrestling with a massive wall, while Zhang Tang tries to use his own brain to crack the lock, and we're all watching in disbelief as he struggles under the weight of it. Zhang Tang recalls an urgent cry for help from someone named Rin Shelman, the woman who had ripped off Summing before her turnaround. He felt tears trail down his face as she begged for revenge for hurting Summing. Yet Zhang Tang was an absolute monster who instantly swore to avenge her before anyone could hear him speak again. He stared hard at the boss standing before him and wondered if taking that final reward would finally make him a godlike force to crush Summing. But just as he was about to lift his big hero weight, the boss in front of him vanished into thin air completely without a trace. He stood there bewildered, asking the empty air what is really happening. That moment arrives when the system notification drops like a bomb, announcing the hidden boss's defeat and cheering players to return home in 3 hours. Zhang Tang sits alone with nothing but his ego, while Su Ming takes center stage, smirking at how perfect the dungeon connection was before declaring the battle truly over. In the control room, the faculty members are losing their minds. Principal Wu hoped the news had come through when someone shouted, "Results in." The main boss knocked out his opponent instantly and told him to go look for that scary academic kid instead of Wu's. They stare at the screen with shock and laugh when they realize the boss is so ridiculous and they don't even want to fight it. The kids in the crowd were surprisingly stupid, hopping around like lost animals and telling jokes about a bunch of mythical gods who had somehow stolen the secret from the empty sky. Everyone's calling the jerk a god, while Summing lets the world spin on its feet, but his little girl Jang sprints by right before he gets caught mid-scream. He pulls the crew onto the ground floor and shouts, "Get moving." The exit portal just opened. As they scramble inside, he sees that everyone is shaking with a terrifying feeling. They feel like imposters. The blue-haired archer refuses the reward, laughing and telling himself he's content at just leveling up. Summing helped the pretty healers save her life in a story about love and healing. The archer whispers that he can't really pull off the escape because there isn't enough power behind him, which means he's stuck with the loot and feels guilty for it all. Singing the hum in your head feels like he's refusing to accept any kind of real humility. The man handed the archer a bow that hummed with ancient water and turned the arrow into a silent promise to catch the storm's roar. Level 20, an exclusive item for rangers, gives players a chance to cast spells with wild random enchantments. He handed her the glowing necklace to boost her strength, then pulled back the heavy weapons ready for her future adventures. She grabs the blood armor undead summoning scroll and, after reading it, instantly summons that hidden boss to play her new pets, letting their stats grow stronger, just like hers. Smiling like a hero who just finished dropping loot mint to save his guild, he told everyone the dungeon officially recognized him as one of the team members. So without your brave help, this fight wouldn't ever have happened. He takes off his tie and delivers a powerful speech about why time is precious when the clock strikes 8. As he stared up at the twinkling stars, the sun began to slowly dip below the horizon, signaling that time was finally running out and they had made their way home. The doorways are right beside each living character when the dungeon gets ready for its final stage of travel. The doors open wide and the lights dim so they can see, yet the room ahead feels coldly still, even as everyone has left. One girl who was once a star in her 70s is now lost, her eyes wide with tears as she wanders aimlessly through the crowded classroom, wondering if anyone else has returned to find her missing siblings and lovers. The archer stares at him sadly as he realizes he's the lone survivor from his old team after all this time. The day he woke up changed everything because everyone now knows how to lose. He noticed that even when people cry, they also celebrate their riches. A loud voice interrupts the sad story he read aloud. He cheers the surviving kids for finishing their last class before they go home. He shares the idea that becoming awake isn't just a matter of having strength. It's also about caring for others and taking care of your own heart. Jang watches Suing closely as the main character worries hard that he might feel truly sad if his life ends, while the principal keeps trying to steer them toward finding their own true values along the way. When Summing Zhang spoke softly about raising the dead, the school's principal shouted that everyone, friends, family, and long-lost friends, had to go back to life within 30 minutes. The room went completely quiet. The archer stumbles back because everyone froze in shock as the principal finally reveals their secret plan to leave the dungeon before dawn. John stares at Summing with his eyes wide in wonder, asking himself exactly why he could know so much without anyone telling him first. Summing up just as he walked away, holding his hands in his pockets, and staring coolly down at everyone else who had finally picked up their jaws from the floor. In the sleek back of your system console, numbers are pouring out like rain on a sunny window, filling up slots so quickly they could have been pulled by magic. Just as the final tally settles into place, the notification gently confirms that everything is set and you can finally go home. Hearing a 91% point in the dungeon despite other kids winning for their own extra points. Summing finished his citywide ranking job and took home the top spot, while Miles trailed just 2 spots behind with a solid 12-level finish. Summing looked up at the leaderboard with eyes rolling open, scratching his neck in slow motion as he casually admitted he had overslept and realized that letting everyone down was actually the best thing he could do. You can almost feel like you're flying when he suddenly sees the distance between himself and those classmates is too huge to ignore. So he'll probably just step back from pretending to be just another role in the story instead of chasing them all along. Before he even could laugh at his win, a crushing heaviness settled firmly upon his right knee. And that was exactly what happened when Principal Wu dropped a baby doll from the school office. It turned out to be Summing, the kind of kid with no balloons who got lost in her own world. Summing awkwardly asks how long he plans to stay down there. And when the principal finally looks up with tears of admiration sparkling in his eyes, he thanks him for saving the Academy's reputation, which has been at the bottom of the barrel for years before he went on a rant about a rival principal from the daunting academy who always badmats him. But now, thanks to Su Ming, their academy is ranked first among the 4 nearby.